This island is a bit of a paradise. The lush vegetation, the waters. It's no surprise that it's a national park.
Yet beyond this pastoral beauty lies a series of abandoned buildings. Virtually uninhabited by man today, they offer up a confused picture and suggest the island once housed a significant population.
One particular building looks like it might almost be a monastery or a religious retreat. It's very inward facing, but then you see the barbed wire, you see the guard towers. Inside you see the locked doors. You realize this is no monastery.
8 miles away, at the northern end of the island, is a second prison-like structure with strange design features.
The closer you look, you realize that this wasn't just any old prison. You have these huge high walls, the guard towers, the spotlights, and just one tiny hatch for an entrance.
Within its outer walls, the mystery deepens.
There are hardly any windows or openings to speak of, and from above, you can see there's a secondary inner structure, almost a prison within the prison. Whoever was held here was dangerous indeed.
So how are these two sites linked? And who was locked up at the heart of this complex? The first structure is found on the southern end of the island, a large rectangular building ominously surrounded by searchlights, metal bars, and smashed-up guard huts. Today, access inside is strictly forbidden. But former prison guard Jean-Marie Dury remembers when some of Italy's most dangerous criminals were housed here.
Bringing them to an island on an island, we could say it was like cutting the umbilical cord.
Separated from the mainland by 180 miles of open sea, the government saw the potential of this site as a maximum security prison.
Originally, it was a judiciary sanatorium and tuberculosis hospital. But then, with the emergence of red and black terrorism in Italy, the government decided to turn this facility into Supermax prison.
Extreme left-wing groups known as Red Terrorists were leading a wave of domestic violence across Italy in the late 1970s. Revolutionaries attempting to overthrow the capitalist state and force Italy's withdrawal from NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
They had homegrown, ultra-left-wing terrorist groups like the Red Brigades that were literally going to war against the country and against the government.
In 1978, they even assassinated former Italian Prime Minister Aldo Moro. As members of the organization were rounded up in response, the government increasingly turned to the isolated island of Asinara and used this, Fornelli Prison, as a dumping ground.
They sent so many members of the Red Brigade to the Fornelli prison that it became a huge focus of the group to get those people released, to get that prison closed.
October 2nd, 1979, a riot breaks out. Brigade members rise up, destroy cells, and begin smashing up the building.
They had packed their stove-top coffee machines with explosives and plastic. They had managed to create real bombs.
Riot police on horseback surround the maximum security wing.
There were tense moments, but you weren't supposed to show fear.
Tear gas is launched into the heart of the rebel uprising.
The Red Brigades attempted a rebellion and then tried to leave the facility, but they failed. They surrendered at about 3 a.m.
The riot was quashed. But soon after, the authorities transferred all the terrorists off the island and began replacing them with Italy's new public enemy number one, Mafia Bosses. But to handle them, they were going to need a new facility. Asinara's isolation, rugged coastline, and lethal currents have long been utilized by the Italian government. In the 1980s, revolutionary terrorists were replaced by a more powerful and deadly enemy. Fornelli Prison was no longer enough. They needed to up their game.
Dove poi alla fine
At the end of the day, we were selected.
su 500 guardie
500 guards were chosen because of this situation.
per questa situazione.
Enrico Merehu was selected as head guard of a new specialized facility. Lookout towers stood at each corner, while walkways around the perimeter left no area out of sight. But at the center of the facility was one particularly strange feature.
A new area was added to the design, the bunker, built with reinforced concrete and surrounded with barbed wire.
The bunker was a singular prison within a prison, a tiny villa built within high stone walls and only one small entrance. It was designed to house just one man.
That's where the top mafia boss or bosses were sent, where they could really be isolated. You can keep an eye on them. You could also protect them from being executed by other forces or poisoned.
The bunker was reserved for the top dog, the last great Sicilian mafia chief, Salvatore Riina, who was the head of the Corleonese clan. He came from Corleone in Sicily, and that is famously associated with the Godfather trilogy.
Riina had gone to war with the state, targeting top officials and organizing terrorist-style bombings. As the government fought back, just as it had for the Red terrorists, this island became its main prison for mobsters. Riina was given 26 life sentences for the murder of hundreds of individuals. Two of the victims Enrico had known personally.
È stata un'esperienza
It was an awful experience for me.
che c'era. Poi mi sono
I
trovato
found myself here with Riina,
qui, il mandante
the
proprio
instigator of those murders.
omicidi.
Riina's influence was such that even within prison walls, he could wield great power.
For a lot of Americans whose idea about the mafia comes from, the Godfather movies and things like that, it's hard to appreciate just how powerful the mafia was up until really quite recent times. It was almost like a shadow government.
The surrounding area was patrolled by 100 agents. Boats crisscrossed the sea day and night. Threats from the sky were monitored with radar.
Controls within the bunker had to be equally watertight.
E allora ogni volta che
So every time we entered or left the bunker, we had to search each other.
ci si doveva controllare
In fact, there were no friends allowed here.
con l'altro.
Even his food was brought to him in a special briefcase to avoid attempts at poisoning.
We always hear a lot about codes of honor among the mafia types, but history shows that provided with the right incentives, they'll turn on each other in a heartbeat.